Hey everybody, Hugh here. Welcome back. In this episode, we're going to focus in on planting spring bulbs, particularly dwarf daffodils, also called narcissi. So welcome along, and let's get planting for spring. So preparing for spring and our spring colour, and very much focusing at the moment on potting up the dwarf daffodils and narcissus. The four varieties that I'm going for this year are Tate, the Spitfire, February Gold, and one called Minnow. Now Tate is one that probably, even if you've never heard of it, you've come across it. It's often sold in garden centres. It's a dwarf yellow narcissi or daffodil, and is one that looks very attractive and is just a very good doer, particularly to the front of borders, or in my case doing them in the smaller pots. This is one that I would do quite a lot of. Planting, a couple of dozen at this time of year in pots will ensure that they'll come up at the main time that they're meant to, which is typically sort of the March, April time, or more April. However, I will hold back some of them that I have and do them later, probably around the Christmas time. And in fact, I might even buy a couple more packets if I get them on discount around Christmas. And by doing them late, it means that they won't flower until May, which is a later time. So I'll have two waves of my Tate. The ones if you don't have, definitely get them. The second narcissus that I'm doing there is one called Jetfire. It's a species narcissus, and it has an orange centre to it with the outer yellow petals on it. A lovely piece of work, slightly bigger than Tate, but equally nice. And again in mid-sized pots, which is very nice indeed. On the February Gold, a couple of pots of those, or maybe one pot of those, and that one is grown for its earlier colour. So about the same time that the crocuses are flowering, February Gold will be coming into flower too. So I always think that's a nice one. Again, slightly bigger than Tate, about the same height as Jetfire, and will typically be going out of flower as Jetfire is coming into flower. So you can see where the two of those will be nice in sequence. The fourth one I'm growing, the narcissus I'm growing, is one called Minnow. And that's a species narcissus which is multi-headed. The flowers are smaller, they're sort of yellow centre with a white outer petals, the very pale outer petals. And again, taller than the Tate, and slightly later than the Jetfire one, and the Tate. So nice to have that sort of, again, that sequence extending. However, we'll wait and see. I wouldn't nail my colours on that one. What I do want is definitely, or what I'm sure I want, is some later narcissus colour, the Tate colour. That's why I'm going to do some of those late, like I've just been saying. Potting them is very simple. It's using pots that'll sort of match the height of the narcissus themselves. Make sure there's drainage holes in them. Compost I use is my usual 1/3 compost, preferably from my own bin. Sometimes it's multi-purpose, but preferably from my own compost selection. 1/3 bought topsoil and 1/3 manure. Making a nice mix of those will ensure a nice rich medium for the plants to grow in. I always add in a little bit of bone meal or seaweed fertilizer, something organic like that, for that slow release properties they provide. I'm lucky enough in that I've built up a wee selection of pots or buckets, depending on what I can get my hands on. So I'm not waiting for some of my summer colours to go over. I'm just going ahead and potting these guys up and getting ready for spring. Standard daffodils, I bought a small bag of one called Dutch Master, which is a nice yellow. It's a standard size daffodil, and again I'm going to be doing those in pots. I have some flower buckets that I've put some holes into that I've come across. A good thing to remember when you're doing your pot colour or your bulb colour, and you're planting your bulbs, is to get them to a nice depth, get them to an appropriate depth. Often they'll flower the first year regardless. You could just stick them on top of soil and they'll flower. That's not the issue. It's to get them to reflower the following year, which is really what you're looking for. So put them down at but make sure that the depth of the bulb has at least twice the amount of twice that depth of compost on top of it. I'll put the link to the to my bulb planting, my tulip planting, because that gives a good demonstration on the depth that you should be putting them down at, in order for them to, you know, do well and then reflower in following years if that's what you're after. Apart from that, nothing else comes to mind. I have done some tulips. Now we are in September, so I've done some tulips in pots. I've started, but I'm holding back some more tulips because really the best time to plant your tulips is in October. You don't want them sprouting up too early, particularly if you're putting them in the soil. You don't want them sprouting too early. So I am holding back quite a lot, but I've done some to start with. As always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give me that thumbs up button, and of course if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. Great time of year for planting bulbs, particularly your narcissus and your daffodils. So if you haven't done so already, it's time to start. Look after yourselves, and of course I'll catch you on the next one. All the best for now. Bye bye.